Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about the house that Dungeons and Dragons built, Legends of Vox Machina, Amazon Prime. And I'm going to tell you the worst moment in Legends of Vox Machina, Amazon Prime, Season 1, Episode 3. All right, let's get into it. All right, so the worst moment in Legends of Vox Machina, Season 1, Episode 3, is when Vax is bitten by Silas Briarwood. So Silas Briarwood is a vampire, and he bites Vax in Season 1, Episode 3, right? And by the way, spoilers for this for Legends of Vox Machina Season 1, Episode 1 through Episode 6. Okay? Alright. So you get this situation where Silas Briarwood, full-on vampire, bites Vax, okay? And you're like, oh man, he just bit him. Guess Vax is a vampire now. But that's not the case, right? And you're like, wait a second, why isn't So we're in Season 6, right? We're in Episode 6. Vax got bit in Episode 3, right? Now, what's going on, right? So first of all, this is consistent with American vampire lore, which is Dungeons and Dragons vampire lore. They're synonymous. There are really no functional differences between American vampire lore and, bog standard American vampire lore and Dungeons and Dragons vampire lore, right? And since, of course, Legends of Vox Machina is the house that Dungeons and Dragons built, right? This is a Dungeons and Dragons vampire, right? So basically, the question then becomes, well, what kind of vampire is Silas Briarwood, right? Now, the reality is, I'm totally okay with anybody who wants to changing up vampire lore. By the way, I know this sounds unusual, but I very much enjoyed Stephanie Meyer's vampire, the 4 vampire books she wrote. I read them all. Eclipse and Twilight, the Twilight series, right? I'm a big fan of those. They were excellent, right? And if you're like, oh, Scott, they weren't good, I'll bet you didn't read them. Like, the people who talk smack about Twilight did not read them. Anybody who read them was like, these are pretty good. Like, they're, quite entertaining, and these are good. And and also, like, you're going to be watching Batman, you're going to watch a great Batman film in about another month or two, because Twilight established Robert Pattinson as an actual talent, right? Like, so, connections are unusual. But, so, I'm totally okay with anybody who wants to changing vampire lore. But you need to communicate people, and you need the story to tell the new rules for the vampire, right? And that just wasn't done here, right? So there's no good reason to have had Silas Briarwood bite Vax and then him not turn into a vampire. Now, if you're like a deep, vampire lore scholar like me, which I am, I get why he didn't turn, right? A vampire has to do 2 things to turn you in American vampire lore. You have to be bitten, and then that vampire, they'll cut themselves, and they'll feed you some blood, and then that's it. You're done. Like, you're a vampire now, right? And that's how it's finished, right? So, but here, Silas Briarwood, who we're supposed to think is dangerous, right, bites Vax, and then, we get these story notes where, like, Vax is like, oh, am I a vampire? And then, like, you're like, are you? Right? And then you're in Episode 6, and you're like, well, what's the point of this? So I'll tell you what the point was. I think it's a gigantic writing hole, right? Like, and I will say, like, I do know Hollywood projects, and this is very much a Hollywood project. Once you get rolling, like, you got to get the thing written for television, right? And I think it's just a dropped ball. It's just totally a dropped ball on the part of the television writer, right? Like, and so I think, and even if this is, straight from the Legend of Vox Machina web series, it doesn't matter, because they could have fixed it in the, in the story. And that's another thing. Like, everybody's like, well, that's the way it was done in Legends of Vox Machina web. Who cares, right? We change stuff, right? Tiberius Strongwind is not in the story. If, like, you need to fix things, you fix things, right? So this was just a complete dropped ball, in my opinion, and it was the worst part of the episode. I am doing best worst, but I will say in the worst part, I still love this show, and I cannot wait for it to drop on Friday. I'm really, really excited about the next sets of stories. And I have to say, even on these worst videos, I'm really getting highly invested in the Legends of Vox Machina Dungeons and Dragons characters, right? Because they, by and large, more do than don't. The characters really are just awesome. Like there's 4 really solid Dungeons and Dragons characters in here. Pike Trickfoot, Grog Strongjaw, Vex and Vax are all pure D&D, and are enough to allow you to enjoy this as the house that Dungeons and Dragons built, which is Legends of Vox Machina, Amazon Prime. Wouldn't he be here without Dungeons and Dragons? Thank you to Dungeons and Dragons. Thank you to Matthew Mercer. It's a great show. Really digging it. And I cannot wait for more Dungeons and Dragons tales on Friday, right? And so, are you excited to see what's going on Friday? I'd love to hear your thoughts on what we'll see. Also, what is your experience with the Vox Machina show? I'm trying to, share my experience. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.